Pay rent or get out. The words cut sharper than the carving knife resting beside the untouched turkey. My father didn't whisper, didn't wait until the dishes were cleared or the last guest had left. No. He stood tall at the head of the table, his voice booming through the decorated dining room like a gavel slamming down. 20 faces turned toward me, forks frozen midair. I felt the heat crawl up my neck, though the air was cold with December frost. The fireplace popped loudly, almost like it was mocking me, filling the silence my family refused to break. And then, just when I thought the humiliation had reached its peak, my sister Vera leaned back, glass of wine in hand, and smirked. She whispered, just loud enough for everyone to hear, "Good luck with that." The ripple of laughter that followed spread like wildfire. Cousins chuckled, neighbors snickered. Even people who barely knew me joined in. It wasn't just my father's words. It was the chorus of agreement, the unspoken message that I was the outsider in my own bloodline. I scanned the table for an ally. An aunt's eyes darted away. My mother busied herself with the gravy boat. No one spoke. No one defended me. So, I stood up. My chair scraped against the hardwood, loud enough to hush the laughter. I gathered my coat from the back of the chair, slipped my arms into the sleeves with steady hands, and walked toward the door. No screaming, no tears, just silence. When the door closed behind me, the icy Wisconsin night wrapped me in a cold embrace. For the first time, I wasn't suffocating in that house. My father thought he was giving me an ultimatum, but he didn't realize he had just given me my freedom. But what if this wasn't the beginning? What if my family had been preparing my exit all along, piece by piece, erasing me before I even had the chance to claim myself? That night would be the spark, but the fire had been smoldering for years, and what came next would not just expose their betrayal. It would flip the script in a way none of them saw coming. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, stick with me. And while you're here, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more true stories, and drop a comment below, because I want to know. Have you ever been treated like you didn't belong? And trust me, this is only the beginning. Looking back, I should have known Christmas Eve wasn't the beginning. It was just the grand finale. Because in my house, love never came wrapped in hugs or words. It came with a bill attached. I was 14 the first time Dad demanded I contribute. Not in chores, not in effort. I'd already been cooking meals and folding laundry since I was tall enough to reach the counter. No, he wanted cash. He leaned on the kitchen doorway, arms crossed, and said it like a sentence. $100, every month, room and board. I remember my grocery store paycheck folded in my trembling hand, the paper still smelling faintly of ink and sweat. I placed it on the table like a fine. He didn't thank me. He just scooped it up and walked away. At 16, I asked where the money went. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line. "Into the family," she said, like that explained everything. When I pushed, Dad laughed, short, sharp, dismissive. That laugh still rings in my ears. It wasn't humor. It was a reminder, don't question the system. But I did, quietly. I started keeping records. First, a notebook tucked under my mattress. Later, a secret file on my phone. Every payment, every emergency, every dollar that vanished into fog. It wasn't petty, it was survival. Paper trails keep reality real. That's what I told myself. Meanwhile, Vera, my younger sister, lived under a softer sky. At 17, when I begged for help buying a used car, Dad slapped a bus schedule onto the fridge and said, "Independent girls figure it out." When Vera turned 21, she walked outside to a shiny compact car wrapped with a red bow. "A young woman needs something safe," Dad declared proudly, handing her the keys. The family applauded like it was a graduation. The pattern never broke. My scholarship letters disappeared. My savings account, built from Grandma's birthday checks and summer jobs, mysteriously emptied. Vera got tuition, allowances, applause. I got silence, hand-me-downs, and an unshakable role as the one who kept things running while fading into the background. And the cruelest part? They dressed it all up as responsibility, as love. "You're dramatic," Dad would say when I questioned the unfairness. "You're lucky we give you a roof. This family isn't a charity." But what kind of charity demands labor, obedience, and rent from a child while handing gifts, cars, and applause to another? Years before Christmas Eve, they'd already written me out of the story. That night at the table was just the moment they stopped pretending. But if they thought I'd go quietly, they were wrong. Because everything I'd been documenting, the receipts, the records, the hidden files, they weren't just survival anymore. They were weapons. And soon I'd use them. The night I walked out, I thought the worst was over. I thought the humiliation of being told to pay rent or get out in front of half the neighborhood would be the last scar my family gave me. I was wrong. 3 days later, in my new apartment, I sat on the bare floor with only a lamp and a stack of bills. My breath fogged against the window as snow tapped the glass like impatient fingers. Out of habit, I opened my banking app, and there it was, line after line, stretching back years. Rent payment, month after month. My stomach tightened. 4 years straight of transfers into Dad's account. I clicked one, then another. Each time the screen glared back the same truth. I wasn't a tenant in that house. I was the mortgage. But when I called the bank, the woman on the line grew cautious, her voice wrapped in careful phrases. "I'm sorry. You're not on the account. And that loan, it's delinquent. 3 months behind." Delinquent. The word cracked in my chest. I wasn't paying rent. I was covering debt. And not even enough to keep the roof I supposedly owed afloat. Embarrassment hit first, then fury, clean and cold. I downloaded every transfer, every receipt, until the folder on my laptop grew heavier than bricks. That's when the email came. Urgent credit alert. New account opened. My name. My old address. A department store card. 2 minutes later, another alert. Home goods. Purchases already posted. Designer heels, a Vitamix blender, an $800 hairdryer. All bought 2 days before Christmas. I froze my credit immediately, hands trembling on the keyboard. When I checked the shipping details, my lungs locked. Recipient, Vera Calloway. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't an accident. It was theft, gift wrapped with my name on it. I sat back, the silence pressing in like a verdict. The family hadn't just erased me emotionally. They'd been draining me financially, identity by identity, card by card. And in that moment, something hardened inside me. The records I'd been keeping all these years weren't just self-defense anymore. They were ammunition. The question was no longer if I would fight back. It was when. The more I dug, the uglier it became. I printed every transfer, every so-called rent payment. The sound of the printer spitting out page after page was like a metronome for my anger. Steady, deliberate, undeniable. I stacked the papers in a neat folder labeled receipts. For once, they weren't for Dad's approval or Vera's benefit. They were mine. My truth, bound in black and white. That's when the thumb drive appeared. Aunt Deborah showed up unannounced, her boots still crusted with snow. She didn't stay long. She just pressed a small USB into my hand, her eyes soft but firm. "Your mother would be proud," she said. And then she left without another word. I slid it into my laptop. The video loaded in seconds. Vera's engagement party. Champagne flutes clinked, guests laughing in sequins and ties. Off camera, someone asked, "Will Octavia be a bridesmaid?" Vera rolled her eyes, smiled that rehearsed smile. "She's not a bridesmaid," she said. "She's the emergency fund, the backup account." Laughter exploded. Harland, her fiancé, raised his glass. "She doesn't mind. She's helpful." They didn't whisper. They didn't flinch. Why would they? No one in that room disagreed. I paused the video, the screen frozen on their faces, smug, polished, perfectly unashamed. And that's when the puzzle locked together. The missing scholarship letter I'd never seen. The savings account drained before I touched it. The sudden debts in my name. The rent that wasn't rent. I wasn't family. I was liquidity. I printed the transcript, clipped it behind the bank transfers, the credit alerts, the shipping invoices. Evidence stacked until the folder bulged. Heavy, like truth always is. And with every page, my resolve sharpened. They had rewritten me for years, reducing me to a line item, a convenience, an ATM with a pulse. But I still had the originals. And now it was my turn to write. Next step, signatures. I booked certified mail pickups. Signatures required, no denials possible. And as I sealed the envelopes, one for each of them, I realized something. Christmas Eve wasn't the night they cut me out. It was the night I stepped out. And now I was about to make sure they understood the cost. I didn't knock. The driveway crunched beneath my boots, the same cracked pavement I'd walked across for decades. But this time I wasn't arriving as their daughter, I was arriving as their auditor. The door creaked open, and the smell of overcooked ham and stale wine hit me. The kitchen buzzed with the familiar chaos. Vera scrolling on her phone, Harlan chewing like a king at his throne, Denise stirring a pot she'd never actually paid for. No one greeted me. No one even looked up. Why would they? In their world, I'd never really been someone worth noticing. I set 3 envelopes on the table. Crisp, heavy, undeniable. Open them, I said. My voice didn't waver. Harlan smirked first. What's this? Another one of your dramatic... Then he read the first page. The smirk vanished. Bank transfers. 4 years of rent that never touched the mortgage. Delinquent notices with his name on them. Credit alerts, account freezes, shipping invoices with Vera's name, and the transcript. Their laughter at the engagement party. Their polished cruelty printed in black ink. Vera laughed anyway, brittle and high-pitched. You printed the internet, she said, trying to sound amused. I met her eyes. You forged me, you spent me, and you laughed while you did it. Harlan cleared his throat, slipping into his practiced calm. Be reasonable. Family handles family. Family doesn't commit identity theft, I said. Family doesn't drain savings meant for a child. Family doesn't erase scholarships, siphon wages, and call it responsibility. Denise stepped forward, arms open like mercy. Octavia, we were struggling. I stepped back. No more hugs from people who steal. The silence burned hotter than a fire. Even Vera's phone hung at her side, screen black. I laid it out. My terms. Today, not someday. 1, reimburse every dollar or we litigate. Itemized. Public. 2, destroy the cards. Photo proof witnessed. 3, stop using my name, address, number permanently. 4, any charge after today triggers police, not conversation. Vera sneered. You love drama more than rent, Octa. I held her gaze. Say my name, then say theft. Denise whispered it. Theft. The word sat heavy in the room. They weren't ready for this. They'd never imagined their emergency fund would turn into their reckoning. And I wasn't done. Harlan's jaw flexed as he slapped the table with his palm, the sound sharp enough to rattle the glasses. You won't call the cops on your father, he growled, his voice thick with authority that used to terrify me as a child. I slid one more page across the table, neat and square. Reports already filed, case numbers inside, letters to counsel queued, stamps paid. You'll get them whether you want them or not. Vera scoffed, leaning back with arms crossed. God, you're so dramatic. You're just mad we never put you in the spotlight. This is your performance now, isn't it? I locked eyes with her, steady and unblinking. Performance? No, Vera, this is the audit. Every lie, every theft, every dollar you thought would vanish. It's here in black and white. I kept the receipts. Denise's eyes brimmed with rehearsed tears, her voice trembling like a well-worn violin. We only wanted what's best for you. We made sacrifices. I cut her off. No, you made withdrawals. From me. From the life I could have had. Scholarships, savings, opportunities, all spent to keep your little golden child afloat. The silence pulsed, alive with the truth none of them could erase. Then Harlan leaned forward, his breath heavy with whiskey, his words a final warning. You walk out that door now, Octavia. Don't expect us to ever help you again. You'll regret this when nobody shows up for you. And that's when the fire rose in me. Hot, clean, undeniable. My voice didn't shake, it rang. I'm not asking, I'm auditing, and the balance you owe is due. The words cracked through the room like a verdict. For the first time, their faces looked small, cornered, exposed. The weight of their own greed sat between us like a loaded gun, and I just pulled the trigger of truth. I stood, collected the unused envelopes, and turned for the door. The originals don't live here. Remember that when you think of tearing anything up. Behind me, chairs scraped, whispers collided, panic simmered, but none of it touched me, because this was no longer their house of power. It was my court, and the judgment had been passed. By the time I slid behind the wheel of my car, my phone was already vibrating like it was possessed. 10 missed calls, 15 new messages. A group chat that had been quiet for months now lit up in a frenzy. Dad first, ungrateful. After all we've done for you. Vera second, you're ruining Christmas. Again. Followed by a photo of her crying in the bathroom mirror, mascara smudged like a prop. Denise last. Please, Octavia, don't do this to us. We're family. We can talk this out. I didn't answer. Not one word. Instead, I drove through the snow, headlights cutting across white drifts, until my house swallowed me whole. Quiet. Honest quiet. But the quiet didn't last. At 1:14 a.m., a voicemail arrived. Harlan's voice, thick with restrained anger. You think you can outsmart me with paperwork? You've always been dramatic. Nobody will take you seriously. By morning, this will blow over, and you'll come crawling back. I saved the message, labeled it, evidence. By sunrise, the spin had started. Denise posted on Facebook. Pray for families torn apart by greed during the holidays. Relatives chimed in with sympathetic emojis. Strangers prayed. Nobody tagged me by name, but everyone knew. Vera went live on Instagram, tearful, trembling, telling her followers she was being bullied by her jealous sister. She panned the camera toward her fiancé, who nodded solemnly and said, "We're the victims here." The comments flooded in. "Stay strong, queen. Cut toxic people out." I didn't comment. Instead, I compiled screenshots. Another folder, narrative control. By midday, their strategy was clear. Rewrite the story before mine surfaced. Make me the villain, the unstable one, the daughter who abandoned her family on Christmas. But what they hadn't learned yet was that I'd been preparing for this moment my entire life. Every receipt, every withdrawal, every missed opportunity, stacked like bricks. Now I was building walls, and they were the ones trapped inside. That evening, as I lit a candle and ate dinner alone, another call came. This time, it wasn't my father. It was Aunt Deborah, the only one who ever seemed to see me. Her voice was low, steady. "They're panicking, Octavia, but don't back down. They'll try everything. Shame, pity, anger. You stand tall. For once, they're the ones exposed." I whispered, "I'm scared." "Good," she said. "That means you're awake. Fear means you're not numb anymore. Keep going. They've never been afraid of losing you. Make them afraid now." I sat there in the glow of the candle, her words burning hotter than the flame. For the first time, fear didn't paralyze me, it fueled me, because the fallout wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of their collapse. The fallout didn't take long to spill from private whispers into public cracks. 3 days after Christmas, my inbox pinged with a notification, mortgage delinquency notice. Addressed not to me, but to my father. His name in bold, the words "Final Warning" stamped across the top. I stared at it for a long moment, then slid it into the evidence folder. By noon, another call came, this time from my cousin Leo, voice tight. "Octavia, did you know Uncle Harlan's house might get foreclosed? He's been bragging for years that he's debt-free. Now everyone's talking." I kept my voice neutral. "Interesting." He hesitated. "Did you have something to do with it?" I didn't answer. Silence can be louder than words. That night, Vera's Instagram told the rest of the story. No staged laughter, no wine glasses clinking, just a shaky video of her pacing in her kitchen. The ring light reflected in her teary eyes. "They're lying about us," she sniffled. "People are saying things that aren't true. We're being attacked by our own blood." The comments weren't as kind this time. "Didn't you just buy designer heels last week? Receipts don't lie, sis. Funny how you cry now when your sister was never included in anything." The sympathy was fracturing, the facade slipping. Meanwhile, Denise left me a voicemail in her carefully measured voice. Octavia, be reasonable. Your evidence? It's damaging. Do you understand what you're doing to this family's reputation? To your own name? If this goes public, you'll never escape the shame. I played it back twice, then added it to the archive. Threats disguised as concern. The next morning, a letter arrived. Not from them, but from the credit bureau. The fraud disputes I'd filed were confirmed. Accounts shut down, purchases reversed. Responsibility shifted back to the thief, Vera. That was the first domino. By the weekend, Dad's old colleagues started calling me, quietly, cautiously. We heard rumors. Is it true? Did he really use your identity? I didn't confirm. I didn't deny. I just let the silence stretch. Because silence, I realized, makes people fill in the blanks with their own truths. And while they scrambled to plug leaks, I was building something else. I booked an appointment with a lawyer, not to fight, but to plan. Sitting across from her polished desk, I laid out the folders. Transfers, fraud alerts, transcripts, voicemails. She raised an eyebrow. You've done my job for me, she said. Not your job, I replied. My survival. She smiled. Then let's make sure survival turns into power. Walking out of her office, snow crunching under my boots, I felt something strange in my chest. Not fear, not anger, momentum. Because cracks in their armor meant one thing. The collapse had already begun. The decision came on a Thursday morning, in the most ordinary way possible, while I was stirring coffee. My phone buzzed with another group chat explosion, messages flying like shrapnel. Vera. She's ruining our lives for attention. Dad. Don't believe everything you see online. Family matters are private. Denise. Octavia? Stop this before you can't take it back. I sipped slowly, letting their panic brew while mine stayed cold. They wanted privacy. They wanted silence. They had no problem humiliating me at Christmas in front of neighbors and cousins. Now the whole town would hear the truth. That night, I did something they never expected. I uploaded my own story. Not a rant, not a scream, just receipts. I filmed my kitchen table lined with neatly stacked folders. I held up the delinquency notices, the credit alerts, the screenshot where Vera called me the family emergency fund. My voice stayed calm, almost too calm. This isn't about rent. This isn't about drama. This is about theft. 4 years of payments that never reached the bank. Identity fraud in my name. A family that used me as an ATM, then told me to pay rent or get out. These aren't accusations. These are records. Make your own judgment. I ended with a shot of my mother's voicemail, her words scrolling as captions. If this goes public, you'll never escape the shame. The irony was delicious. Within an hour, the video had 1,000 views. By morning, 10,000. By the weekend, 500,000. Comments poured in. You're not alone. Families like this hide everywhere. Her sister literally stole her identity. Lock them up. Octavia, you're stronger than you know. Keep the receipts. I didn't even have to say their names. People put the puzzle together on their own. Friends unfollowed Vera in droves. Dad's construction partners started pulling contracts. Denise's social circle whispered, louder and louder, until she couldn't step into a grocery store without side eyes. And then came the kicker. Local news reached out. A reporter called, polite but curious. We've seen your video. Would you be willing to talk about financial abuse within families? No names required, just your experience. I agreed. The segment aired on a Sunday night. I appeared only in silhouette, my voice distorted, but the story rang clear. Financial abuse doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people sitting across your holiday table. The next morning, my father called. His voice shook with a rage he tried to hide. You've destroyed us, do you understand? People think we're monsters. I let the silence stretch. Then I answered, maybe they don't think you're monsters. Maybe they think you're exactly what you showed me you were. And I hung up. Because for the first time, the spotlight wasn't blinding me. It was burning them. The fallout didn't come like thunder. It came like ice, slow, cracking, and impossible to stop. Contracts slipped away from my father's business. Partners whispered about unreliable practices. Within 3 months, the company that once boasted of community values filed for bankruptcy protection. Vera's so-called influencer career collapsed overnight. Sponsors pulled out when screenshots of her forged purchases surfaced online. She tried to pivot with apologies and staged tears, but the internet remembers. She was no longer the golden sister. She was a warning meme. And Denise, my mother, lost the control she loved most, her narrative. No more poor Octa stories told at Bridge Club. No more rewriting my life with casual lies. Her friends looked at her differently now, not with admiration, but with suspicion. Every smile was thinner, every invitation quieter. She had built her image on sacrifice and pride, until the truth showed she had sacrificed me. Meanwhile, I didn't just survive. I rebuilt. I started a small community project with the folder of receipts that once weighed me down. I called it the Ledger Project, a safe space where people like me, erased or exploited by family, could share their stories and learn how to protect themselves financially. The first meeting had 5 people, the second, 20. By the end of the year, we filled a library basement with voices that had once been silenced. And me? I slept better. My walls were mine, my paycheck was mine, my future, finally, was mine. One night, months later, my phone buzzed. A message from my father. Just 3 words. We need you. I stared at it, heartbeat steady. Once, those words would have broken me into pieces of duty and guilt. Now they felt like a closed door knocking from the wrong side. I didn't answer. Instead, I slid my phone face down, lit a candle, and whispered the words that became my anchor. Family isn't ownership. Boundaries aren't betrayal. And for the first time in my life, that truth didn't feel like rebellion. It felt like freedom. So here's my question for you. What's the most satisfying moment of justice you've ever witnessed? Tell me in the comments. I want to hear your story. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs to know they're not alone. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't anger, it's peace, and the proof that you never needed them to begin with.